You'll notice on some of my videos, well, probably all of them from now on, well, maybe not, that I have a QR code and buy Gweilo a beer. I keep getting people saying, Gweilo, I want to buy you a beer. I have no problem with that. As I'm out doing these videos, I stop at these little corner stores and grab a beer. You can drink these puppies all day and not get blasted. They're 2.8% alcohol. So there's less alcohol in this than there is salt and seawater. Yeah, but if you want to buy Gweilo a beer, just hit that QR code. If you got WeChat, I won't say no. Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. You know, China has the highest rate of home ownership in the world. That means more people in China, and sorry for the noise, but I like the background where they're building. You see, this used to be the bus station for this area up until about a year and a half ago. They tore it all down. Now they're building houses. Why? People need a place to live, guys. But it has the highest rate per capita, and we're talking 1.4 billion people. So it has the highest rate of home ownership in the frickin' world, guys. Like, seriously, you got 1.4 billion people. Out of all of the people that I actually know in China, I don't know one renter. Not one renter out of everybody that I know in China. I know. It's everybody owns their own home. Weifang, he's a cousin of ours from Bobai. He was a renter, but not really, because he owned a home in Bobai. But he came to the city, and they were renting at a little village right inside the city, and it was cheap. But everybody wants to own their own home. It's one of those things that all Chinese are exactly the same. Weifang, when we got married, the first thing she pushed me on was to buy a house in China. She wanted a home in China. And all Chinese people are exactly the same when it comes to this. Back to Weifang. So he doesn't have enough money because home ownership, properties have gone through the roof here in Nanning. There are cheaper places in rural China, and I'll get to that in a minute. But because he's simply an electrician, he doesn't make enough money to buy a house here all by himself. But his wife has a job and his daughter has a job. So the whole family gets together, they live in the same place, gets together, and everybody helps make the payment on the house. A little different than it is in Canada, the United States. Hey, mom and dad, you go buy your own house. The kid, you go buy your own house. But it's really, really important to own your own home, especially if you're a guy. Because in China, if you don't have a home, no self-respecting girl is going to marry your ass. And that's the truth. Unless you're like super gorgeous, or she's dumb as a stump, you know what I mean? Or there is true love. You know what I mean? But the idea is that it's an investment. It's security for the future. It's you know, the same thing as in the West. If you own your own home, you don't have to rent. You're not at the whim of your landlord. I'm going to up your rent. I'm going to boot you out. You know what I mean? So there's really no security there. And the Chinese understand this probably more than anybody else in this world. And I find it quite interesting that everybody owns their own home. It's weird. Yeah, even the poor people, like Latza and Alugo. Alugo is the cousin that lost his wife here about 18 months ago. I feel sorry for him. They're living in Nanning right now, but they own their own home in Bobai. And about 18 months ago, you know, bad luck always comes in more than one type thing. They had a house fire, and Latza and Alugo, their house is sort of like row housing in Bobai, so they're attached. Fire. They're made out of cement, the doors, the roof, and everything were all wood, and burnt the living bejesus out of that. Okay, well, within about 2 months, they had that sucker rebuilt. Why? Because it's their home. It's security for them and their family, their children. If they ever need a place to go and hang out, if things got tough for them in the city, and during the COVID-19 epidemic, things did get tough in the city. There were no jobs. Everybody was locked down. They buggered off back to Bobai, and lo and behold, hey, they've got a place to live. You know what I mean? So it does work for the Chinese people. It does work for the people that own their own home. If you're a renter, not so much. Real estate's always been a place where you can sort of stick your money and you know that it's gonna grow more than the money in the bank. Yes. As I say, Weifang sort of pushed me into buying a place here back in 2004, 2005. We bought in Beihai. Then we sold that. We bought this place on Hojilu, and since we bought it on Hojilu, I think it was 2007, it actually tripled in price. So not only was it a good idea, because now we're living in the place and it is our home, but we've actually made money on buying the property, which is a great investment. And I think the Chinese sort of look at that also. It's not just a place to live in, it's not just security, but it's a good investment for the future. And after it's all said and done, when mom and dad get old and die off, that property is still there for the kids to use or own type thing. And you think, well, in the West they just sell it and, you know what I mean, move into an old folks home. Well, yeah, that's the West. Not here, because you can't actually own your property here in China. But you own the apartment, but not the land that it sits on. It's just the way it is. That's owned by the country. All right, so you get the apartment, and it gets old and decrepit, and everything's falling apart, and it's only 7 stories high or whatever. Then some developer comes along and says, well, geez, you know, I can make a lot more money off of this by tearing this all down and building a 35-story or 33-story high-rise. All right, so he goes to everybody and says, hey guys, I will give you 1.3 times the size of the apartment that you've got, and 3 years rent at another place while we're tearing it down and building it up. So you get a brand new apartment, 1.3 times bigger than the apartment you've got, in a high-rise, and it doesn't cost you anything. People look forward to that, let me tell you. I know lots of people, and it's happening to Lisa right now, where she's got a really old place that was given to her by her dad, actually, and they're tearing it down and building high-rises. They're right in the middle of the city. Okay, her place is probably worth $1.5 million right now, but when it's done, she'll have something worth well over 3 million RMB. Well, good deal. Of course it's a good deal. You know, but there's 7 stories, and now there's 35 stories, so more people, whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know, but the Chinese people think it is, so it is a good thing. There's a lot of developers out there making lots of freaking money doing this, but then again, the local Joe and Mary, or Weifang and Ping, if you're in China, they actually make money off their properties and their purchases too, just for the fact that they're not putting out rental money, because rental money, everybody knows, it's just like throwing it away. They're acquiring wealth while they do it, and the Chinese people are really good at this. It's ingrained in them. I think it's because they've had such a rough background over the last 100 or 200 years that security means everything. Family means a lot. If you've got a child that, as I say, a boy that has no property or no apartment or no house, nobody's going to marry him. So it's a means to the end of what they need, and that's pretty important to the Chinese people. And as anything else, it all depends on what you can afford, because it's no different than in the West. When you go buy a property, you have to put a down payment on it, and you have a mortgage, and you're paying interest on it. Interest in China is a little bit higher than in the West, but then if you got term deposits and whatever, you make more money off your money too. So I like that as a foreigner. But you know, so it's no different than than in the West when you're buying a property. So as I was saying, you know, in the middle of the city, the prices are very, very high. You're going to be paying anywhere from 20 to 30,000 RMB per meter, which you work it out into square footage for the people in the West, but they sell it by the square meter here. In the outskirts, not so much. You know, you can still probably buy brand new properties on the outskirts, and they do build them on the outskirts of the city for approximately 10,000 RMB per meter. So that's in Nanning. In Beijing it would be way higher, Shanghai would be way higher. In smaller communities, like when I was out in Sanjiang or in the areas along the Vietnamese border, the smaller Ping An and places like that, they do build high-rises in those smaller rural communities also. Somebody's making money there too. But in those places, you're paying 3,500 to 4,000 a meter for basically the same thing. But the difference is that the property there is worth less than the property in a big city like Nanning. Well, big, 7.5 million people. So you got to take that all into consideration. And the people in the rural areas don't make as much money, so it's all relevant, I guess. But even in the rural areas, everybody owns their own home. In the city, everybody owns their own home, or not everybody. Most everybody owns their own home. The larger percentage of people in China actually own their home. What a concept. Oh, and when COVID-19 hit, because Chinese are savers, they all have money in the bank too, but they don't go out and just blow all of their money. They don't have a bunch of credit cards in their pocket. They're not heading for Vegas and Fort Lauderdale in the spring and all of these other things. What they do is, when they got extra money, they put it into their bank account, they buy term deposits and money management and whatever, and their money makes money. So when COVID-19 hit, they didn't need a bunch of payments from the government, free money from the government, or they're going to lose their home, because they had savings. What a concept, right? You know, it's strange. They had savings. So when everything got locked down for 3, 4, 5, 6 months in some places, they had the money in their pocket to go pay their mortgage, so life was pretty good for them. Now everything, as you can see, everything is back up and running here in China, and they're building more buildings. People are buying more homes. More people are moving into the city, and that's just the way of it. But it's one of the things that I thought you guys should know, that China, everyone in China that I know owns their own home. Most everybody in China owns their own home. They actually have it together here. And it's not just 1 or 2 areas of the city in Nanning that they're building high-rises. It is everywhere. Like seriously, they're tearing down old stuff and they're putting up new stuff. Why is it? Because people want more houses. The population of Nanning has grown from 3.5 million people when I came here in 2003 to 7.5 million people in 2020. So it's more than doubled in the last 17 years. And this is where we used to go get our groceries. This was the biggest wet market in our area of Nanning City. Now it's going to be a mega complex of people. Just think the numbers of people that are going to be, and this is about a block and a half from where I live. Wow. And across the street from where I live is the same thing. Down the block the other way is the same thing. China is growing in leaps and bounds, and it's not just Nanning City. This is everywhere in China. How long are the mortgages that they take out on these properties? Well, I know Weifang is 30 years. Do they worry about paying it off during their lifetime? Like Weifang is 50 years old, so he'll be 80. Well, 78, because he bought it a couple years ago. Is he worried about paying it off before he gets old and doesn't work anymore? No, because his daughter and her husband and children, when she gets married, when she has kids, will help take over the payments. That's how it works here. It's multi-generational. If you can't afford it, sooner or later, dollar gets smaller, RMB gets smaller as time goes on, inflation and whatever. So what seems like a lot of money right now in 10, 15 years, won't seem like a lot of money. But it's one of those things that we don't think that way in the Western world, where in China they actually do. It's not for me and my wife, it's for me and my wife, my children, my grandchildren, you know, and that's a difference in thinking here in China as compared to the West. It's not all about me in China, it's about us. And that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button. Thanks for watching. Bye now.